There are moments in life when the world seems to hold its breath, when time softens, sounds fade, and a single choice can rewrite the entire path ahead. That night, in a quiet restaurant where chandeliers glowed like suspended stars and silverware gleamed untouched beneath trembling fingers, one such moment was unfolding. And no one in that room, not the waiters, not the diners, not even the two souls sitting across from each other, knew how deeply this night would change them. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength of the human heart, take just a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Loom. It helps us keep telling the stories that remind the world of the goodness still left in it. The restaurant itself was elegant, the kind of place where people whispered as if scared to disturb the soft glow of candlelight. But the quiet at one particular table felt different, heavier, almost trembling. A man in his early 30s sat there, shoulders stiff, fingers unconsciously tracing the edge of the folded menu. His name was Ethan. Anyone seeing him that night might have passed him off as shy or simply nervous, but his silence carried years of grief, responsibility, and a courage he himself rarely acknowledged. In the 5 years since losing his wife to cancer, he had lived a life few could understand. The kind where days blurred into nights, where exhaustion became a permanent companion, and where every decision, big or small, was made with one little girl in mind. 6-year-old Lily was his universe. He packed her lunches, braided her hair the best he could, read her bedtime stories, and whispered promises that he would try with everything inside him to make life gentle for her. But life had not been gentle to him. He juggled 2 jobs, delivery shifts in the early mornings and warehouse work in the evenings, barely scraping enough to keep up with bills, school needs, and doctor checkups. Still, he carried himself with quiet grace. He never complained, never shouted, never asked for help. His co-workers interpreted that silence as dullness. To them, he was the boring dad. The man who always said no to parties, who left early, who kept to himself, who didn't date. They didn't see the exhaustion behind his eyes, or the small pair of shoes waiting at home. They didn't understand the kind of strength it takes to rebuild a broken world alone. One slow afternoon, out of sheer boredom and the sort of misguided humor that comes from people who have never felt real pain, his co-workers decided to help him. They whispered among themselves, exchanging glances and smirks, planning something they thought would be hilarious. A blind date. But what Ethan didn't know was that it was never meant to be real. They planned to secretly record it and share the clips in their group chat, expecting awkwardness, humiliation, and a laugh at someone else's expense. They found a woman named Rachel through a friend of a friend, someone kind, someone soft-spoken, someone they assumed would make the joke even funnier. Rachel was in her late 20s, a woman who had spent most of her life being judged for her size before anyone cared to notice her warmth, her intelligence, or the bright gentleness she carried in her eyes. She had been hurt often, mocked, dismissed, ghosted, but she still tried. She still believed in the possibility that someone someday might see her for who she really was. She had no idea she was part of a cruel setup. She thought this date was a chance, a new beginning, a small hope she had waited a long time for. Ethan showed up wearing his cleanest white shirt, one that Lily called his lucky shirt. He didn't believe in luck, but he wore it anyway because she had kissed the collar before he left and told him in her tiny voice, "Daddy, you look perfect." Rachel arrived minutes later, her heart pounding harder than she wished. She had spent hours choosing an outfit she felt comfortable in, practicing her smile in the mirror, reminding herself that she deserved kindness too. But the moment she stepped inside, she noticed 3 men at a corner table whispering, glancing her way, half covering their phones as they recorded little clips. Her stomach twisted, her breath faltered. Something felt wrong, but she pushed herself forward anyway because turning around would hurt even more. When she approached Ethan's table, he stood up politely, offering a small, warm smile. She expected him to look disappointed or judgmental, but he didn't. He simply looked relieved that she had shown up. Still, she kept her eyes lowered, afraid to meet a gaze that might confirm her fears. The silence between them was thick at first, filled with unspoken questions and quiet doubts. Behind them, the 3 men, Ethan's co-workers snickered under their breath, capturing little moments, waiting for something embarrassing to unfold. But then, something shifted. Ethan noticed her trembling fingers, the way she avoided his eyes, and something inside him ached. He recognized the look, the quiet fear of being judged, the exhaustion of carrying a heart that had been hurt too many times. He had lived with a version of that pain for years, so instead of letting the silence win, he gently began asking about her day, not with polite curiosity, but with genuine interest. He asked about her work, about what she enjoyed doing, about the places she wished she could travel someday. His voice was steady, patient, warm. Slowly, Rachel began to look up. Not fully at first, but enough to see that he meant what he said. Enough to feel seen, not scrutinized. The walls around her began to crack just a little. They talked about books, about how life had tested them in ways they never expected, about the strange courage it takes just to keep showing up. For the first time in a long time, Rachel felt a flicker of peace. She even smiled, and this time it wasn't forced or apologetic. It simply was. Meanwhile, the three men kept waiting for Ethan to realize it was a joke. They expected him to get angry, to storm out, to embarrass her. They thought that would be the moment worth recording. But instead, something happened that none of them predicted. After dinner, Ethan stood up and told Rachel softly to wait just a moment. Then he walked directly toward the corner table. The men straightened up, unsure whether to keep laughing or hide their phones. Ethan set his own phone down in front of them and, in a calm voice that carried more weight than shouting ever could, told them he knew exactly what they were doing. The men tried brushing it off, but Ethan's expression didn't change. He spoke slowly, but every word felt like truth landing heavily in the air. He told them that what they saw as entertainment was someone else's pain, that the people they mocked were often the ones who carried the most strength, that kindness mattered more than any joke ever would, and that tonight, instead of breaking two people, their cruelty had shown him something real, something worth holding on to. He turned back toward Rachel, collected his calm breath, and walked to her as though no recording, no mockery, no cruelty could touch what had begun at that table. He pulled out her chair and said quietly that he wanted to finish dinner, that he would rather focus on someone genuine than on people who had forgotten what humanity meant. Rachel cried then, not out of sadness, but because someone had finally stood up for her without hesitation or pity. Ethan smiled and told her something Lily often said, that beauty is what makes people feel safe, and that he felt safe with her. They stayed for hours after that, talking freely, feeling something gentle unfolding between their broken pieces. When they stepped out into the cool night air, Ethan asked if he could see her again. Rachel's yes trembled with hope. The men deleted the videos quietly, shame eating at the edges of their laughter. Later that night, when Ethan told little Lily about the dinner, she listened with wide, innocent eyes before whispering, "Daddy, I think Mommy sent her to us." Ethan's heart tightened. Maybe, just maybe, she had. Weeks passed, then months. Ethan and Rachel grew inseparable. Their shared wounds slowly softened into something like healing. And when those same men later saw Ethan walking hand in hand with Rachel while Lily happily skipped beside them, they realized the joke had never been on Ethan or Rachel. It had been on them, on their smallness, their cruelty, their inability to see real beauty. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to Kindness Loom. It helps us continue spreading stories that remind the world that kindness is never wasted. Before you go, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to appreciate you.